Hey everybody, this is Nat C. Jones here, and I am so happy that you visited my channel. I appreciate you, and Happy New Year. As you can see, I have on my Michael Jackson jacket and some sparkly earrings to celebrate this new year, 2024. Wow, we made it. So I want to share with you something that I read today. I told you before that I was going through the Jesus Calling devotional. I actually got it probably in November, so I only finished this much of it, so I'm starting over in it. This book is amazing. It says for January 1, come to me with a teachable spirit, eager to be changed. A close walk with me is a life of continual newness. Now we're talking about the new year. Wouldn't it be nice to have continual newness, constantly being able to start over and over? Do not cling to old ways as you step into a new year. Instead, seek my face with an open mind, knowing that your journey with me involves being transformed by the renewing of your mind. Seeking his face with an open mind. What does that mean? To seek God's face is to put effort towards knowing him, to make him a priority, so that when you first wake up, that's the first thing that you think about. And before you go to sleep, he's the last thing you think about. To seek, to desire him. Then it says, as you focus your thoughts on me, be aware that I am fully attentive to you. I see you with a steady eye because my attention span is infinite. So this really got me because I know my attention span is not infinite. It actually, we live in a day and time where it's really hard to focus on anything. There's always something distracting. There's always something trying to grab your attention. But he says his attention span is infinite, which means he can give you his full attention while giving everybody else his full attention as well. He can do that because he's God and he's infinite. Then it says, I know and understand you completely. My thoughts embrace you in everlasting love. I also know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Give yourself fully to this adventure of increasing attentiveness to my presence. So what this tells me, and of course it gives some scriptural references that we'll go into, but what this tells me is we have God's attention, but does God have our attention? I can be honest with you. A lot of 2023, God did not have my attention. You know what had my attention? My business, money, my ambitions. And I was able to accomplish a lot, but I learned that in God's presence, there are things that I'm working for, that if I was to just submit to his presence and surrender under his love, I wouldn't have to work for those things. Those things would be given to me. And I've talked about that before. For you workaholics, you people who always want to accomplish things, check things off the list. In 2024, what would happen if we really gave God our full attention? From the moment that we wake up, please understand, when you wake up, there's going to be something grabbing for your attention as soon as you open your eyes. It's going to be your phone, Facebook, social media. It's going to be the television, could be your kids, could be your spouse. Make it a priority to be intentional about prioritizing God and giving him your full attention first. Give him your first fruit, your first breath, your first look, your first conversation. Give it to God and watch what he does because of what you've given him. Because you already got his attention. This is what it's saying. He is fully attentive to us. And when we pray, we don't have to wait a long time to hear or to know that our prayers have been heard. He's present. I remember when I first realized that there was a difference between going to church and being in the kingdom. I learned this from a pastor called, his name was Bishop Kimball of the Life Center Church. That was the first time I heard about the kingdom and what it means to be in the kingdom. The kingdom mindset says this: God is with me wherever I go, not just in the four walls of the church. I don't clock in and clock out of my relationship with God. He is with me everywhere I go. And I remember the pastor saying, when you pray, to God. You are not praying to someone who is far off in the stars in the sky, way, way far away, where you're like a little speck in his sight. When you pray to God, he is right there in your face, looking at you and listening to you, because he's spirit. And I remember when the pastor said that, I was just like, wow, I've never looked at it like that. I thought that when I was praying, it was almost like twinkle, twinkle, little star. God is really far away, and I hope he hears me. When you pray, he's present with you. For those of you who are parents and those of you who've ever been in love, maybe you can relate to this. So a great example of it is sometimes when my children are asleep, when I'm feeling really motherly, I look down at my children, especially at my little baby now, because he's all new and fresh. But I look down at my children when they're sleeping, and I call it a love glance. And just for, 10, 15 seconds, you just look at them and you smile and you just feel all of this love that you have for your child. You just take a moment. They don't even know you're there, and you're looking at them, you're gazing at them, you're loving them, and they don't even know it. Maybe you've been in a relationship, if you don't have any children, where you've done that when your spouse or your significant other was asleep and you were getting out of bed and you just took a moment to look at them to see how beautiful they are or how precious they are. It's something about that love gaze. Now, you don't want to stare too long because then it gets a little creepy, but we know this. But I think about God's attentiveness to us as a love gaze, because we all know what it's like to just look at somebody for a little moment and say, man, I really love you. To understand that God is present. He's always with us. He's always loving us. He's always attentive to us and available to us, but we're not always attentive and available to him. What would our relationship with God be like if we would return the attentiveness? Yes, we have to work. We have to go to school. We have to make money. We have responsibilities with our family, our children, our spouses, our loved ones. But to consider God throughout your entire day, instead of that person that you always call, or instead of always going to social media to see what other people think about things that are happening in the world, what if we decided to make God our best friend? And anytime something happens, if you're frustrated, instead of calling somebody to gossip, you pray. When you're happy about something, instead of calling somebody to celebrate, not saying you can't, but instead of doing that first, taking that first route, taking that moment to give it to him, how would your life change based on that relationship shift between you and God? I seem to think, I think that your relationship with God would strengthen, and every and anything that you need would be met. Every need that you have would be met before you even ask it. I've shared in the past, Avery, where I've been in, I have my daughter here doing some work. She wanted to be close to mommy. They're home for a Christmas break. I've had in the past experience being in a vein with God where I would wake up and he would be the first person. I would start talking to him and praying before I even opened my eyes. And before I went to sleep, as I closed my eyes, I would talk to him until I went to sleep. It was really a simple practice, but I made it a habit. I was intentional about him being the first and last person that I spoke to. And then throughout the day, I would be intentional about considering him. And when I'm talking about praying and speaking to God, it's not even necessarily audible. It could literally just be in my mind, in my heart. I'm thinking something, I'm saying something. When I pray, it's not always out loud. God hears it because God's a spirit. He doesn't have a physical ear. It's a spiritual ear. So you can pray to God in your spirit without ever making a sound. I was sharing this story with my father-in-law last night when we were all celebrating for the new year. And I shared with him a story when I was sitting in a church and there was prayer going on. There were 2 times where I prayed something and I did not speak, but God heard me and he acted. And I want to live my life in that space where I know I can tell that God hears me when I pray, and He responds to me because my prayer is that real. So there was one time, and I may have shared this before, when I was an entrepreneur and I was broke. I was a broke-apreneur. And I had literally 50 cents in my purse. And the night before, I had been praying and asking God, Lord, show me what I need to do next. I had just graduated from school with a degree in architecture. The economy had tanked. I was having a hard time finding a job, but I wasn't even sure I still wanted to be an architect. And because I always wanted to be a writer. But I was told when I was in middle school or high school by a guidance counselor that I wouldn't make any money writing and that I should pick something else. So I said, well, I'll do like architecture. She said, do that. So I did that. And now I have this degree. I'm trying to find a job and it's not working. And I feel like I'm not supposed to be pursuing architecture. I was going through a crisis. And so I fasted for a day and I prayed and I just cried and prayed, God, show me what to do. Show me what to do. I was in my early 20s. And I went to church the next day, 50 cents in my pocket. I had started a business doing graphic design to make some money on the side, but I was really broke. And there was a lady, she was a prophet, she was in town, and she preached, and then she began to prophesy. And she said, everybody who has a business or entrepreneur, I want you to stand up and come to the front. She prayed over us. It was a lot of people. And then she said, if you believe God for a miracle, I want you to go back and get an offering and bring it back to the altar. Now, there are times when people ask for offerings and I'm like, okay, here we go again. And then there are other times when I know that understand what it means. You're giving something. This is a show of faith that you believe that God is going to do something. It is a spiritual thing. And I felt in that moment, I said, okay, this is a spiritual thing I need to give. If I really want my business to grow or to do something, I'm going to have to do something. But in my mind, as I was walking back to my seat, I said to myself, all I have is 50 cents. Avery, stop. All I have is 50 cents, and I am not going to disrespect God by putting this in the offering plate. So as I was walking back to my seat, she's talking over the mic. I said in my mind, all I have is 50 cents. I'm not giving that. Then she immediately says over the mic, I don't care if you just have 50 cents, bring it. And I was like, that was very specific. So I got my little 50 cents. I raised my hand. I got an envelope. I slid the 2 quarters in there, licked it, closed it. I did not write my name on it because I was very embarrassed. And all of the people, all the entrepreneurs were going to the altar to give their offering. And I went up there and I kind of slid it and was trying to just drop it and run. And when I did that, she grabbed my hand. And she started to prophesy to me. And she basically told me everything I had prayed the night before. And she said, for Natalie, God says for you to pursue your passion. She said there was something, your passion is tied to something that you've always loved to do, but someone told you a long time ago that you would not make money doing that. And I immediately knew what she was talking about. It was writing. And so I got the answer that I needed, and I didn't even pray out loud. I said in my mind, all I have is 50 cents. Next situation. I was at the same church, and where you go to church does matter, by the way. If you're going to go, you want to go somewhere where you can hear from God and you can sense His presence when you're among the people at the church. And your life should be improving. You should be getting closer to God. So this particular time is I was still in my 20s. I was young. And there was a preacher who preached. He came from out of town. I think it works when someone is someone that I don't know, because I tend to trust strangers when it comes to prophecy. Because if you know me, I feel like you already knew that. Don't tell me what you already know. You probably heard that from my mama or somebody. So when it's a stranger, I'm always like, okay, you had no way to know that. So I believe that. So this man preached the house down. He was from New Jersey. And he had everybody stand up. And then he said, I want everybody to get $60 and come up and bring it to the front. So a lot of people started sitting down because they're like $60, you know. But again, in that moment, I understood what had gone forth with the word and that this was fertile ground to sow in, and I wanted to sow. And there were, the place was packed, and there were people sitting down to get their money, and then there were people sitting down because they were not going to give and they didn't want to. The girl I was with, she said, girl, he crazy if you think I'm going to give him $60. And so as I was sitting down in my spirit, I said to God, God, if I had it, I would give it. And when I sat down, immediately a woman came up to me. She grabbed my hand and started walking me to the front of the church. I did not know who this woman was. The church was packed. There had to be at least 300 people in there. And as she's walking me to the front, I said, what are you doing? And she said, God told me to give you this $60 so that you could give this offering. I started crying because he heard me and I had not even opened my mouth. I need you to understand in 2024 the kind of God that you have access to, the limits that we have with human beings where there are miscommunications. And that's not, I said that, but that's not what I meant. God knows exactly what's on your heart. Your heart can speak to God before you even open your mouth because he's that attentive to us. And when I thought about it, I said, in order for that woman to make it to me by the time I sat down, she had to already be heading my way before I even said the prayer. Excuse me. Something got caught in my throat. But yeah, I was like, she had to be on her way to me before I even said the prayer that I said. God, if I had to give it, if I had to give, I would give it. God can hear your heart. The sound that your voice makes and when your lips move, that doesn't mean as much as what's on your heart. He's attentive to us. What if we return the attention? What could we do? What kind of powerful things could we see God do in our lives? How would he move in our lives that we haven't experienced before? In 2024, this is my priority. I have decided to just not care about anything else that much and to focus on really seeking God, leaning into my relationship with God. The love relationship has already been created because of what he did when he sent his son to die on the cross for my sins. So the love is there. I don't have to create love for this relationship. All I have to do is show up and stand in it and return to God what he's already given to me, which is my full attention. I hope this is something that you decide to do this year. I promise you, if you do, you will see miracle after miracle after miracle. The things that you are working so hard to accomplish, God can get it done just like that. The people you're trying to get meetings with, he can make them call you. He can whisper your name in the right ears. And we're working so hard trying to be successful. Let me tell you what success looks like in 2024. Success looks like in 2024, for those of you who believe, is allowing God to provide for his children. If you are a child of God, let him provide for you. Let him open doors for you. All you need to do is to love him, prioritize him, obey him, and everything else is set up to work for your good. Thank you so much again for tuning in to this video. I hope it was inspirational to you. I hope that you are compelled and inspired to pursue a closer walk with God, because that is the foundation for success. See you next time. Bye.